Gush, dove, yafato shimana. Hey, katoto yama. Hesta pakoria, push da yata. Kuyaba. Hey, yamoda. Washi. Kapatadia. Hey, mano hoyo, 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 hoyo. Hey, stopadiga. Hito bofu. Hey, I'm Christopher McClure, and that was Gibberish. And today I am going to explore what gibberish is, and like what are the components of gibberish, and why would anybody want to talk in gibberish? How does it benefit our lives, and so on and so forth. I got into gibberish. I think maybe about 3 years ago. It occurred to me. Well, actually, this is where it came from. I this is where it kind of was born in this practice. So I have been involved in for a couple of decades with a improv theater technique called playing back your dream. Playing back. It's called playback theater. The thing is that I turned it into a sort of a slight deviation on that. It's called playing back your dream. And basically, in these two forms, these improv forms, you take a story or we take a dream and we act it out, spontaneously in the moment. There is a exercise that that was taught to me as part of playback theater. It's called sound and movement. Sound and movement is essentially it's really it's what it says. It's sound and movement. It's a way of checking in. Like if you're in a group of people, one person is the leader. You do one at a time, and they take a minute, or so, to express where they're at, but to do it in a more sort of primitive, basic form. In that form, in other words, I'll just show you right here. So if I was going to check in right now, it's like, "Hey ma, kuwasia mana kuofo." So I'm doing it with gibberish, but it doesn't have to be with gibberish. It can just be, "Hi na 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 na." Yeah, I can't. It's hard not to do it without gibberish. But I'm using sound and movement to express my emotional state. Whoa, what's up? What? Yeah, that's. Tell me, yeah. Oh, whoa, oh, yeah, hello. Yeah. So it's just a little example of sound and movement. But I got the idea that, it's like, all right, well, if it's sound and it doesn't have to be words, well, how about if it was just made up words? Like, how can you turn this expression, this kind of primitive expression, into something more fluent, and not be hindered by the left mind, worrying about, oh, I have to be careful about what I say, or be politically correct, or people might think I'm, you know, they might think something, about me that wouldn't be nice. Um, so that's where the gibberish came from, and I started doing it, and I remember showing it to my wife, and she kind of freaked out. She was like, "Are you gonna like are you going off the deep end, or where is this gonna lead? It's like, are are people going to think you're even more strange than they already think you are, you know?" And I um, I was kind of nonplussed. It's just like I saw the value of it, and I just continued doing it. And I would typically do it like every time I got in my car and I'd start driving. I would just do that for about 3 minutes or so, and just to kind of like, and So yeah, that's where it came about, and where the way I use it now is you can see it when I do sound and movement. Very often it is using gibberish, and it's a way of playing. It's a way of it's. I mean, I actually wrote a song about it. I'm a musician, and I can remember the words right here. So it goes. Let me share with you some gibberish. The secret longings of my primal soul, the the a deep expression from the great unknown, a prayer to all that I dare to hold. Don't need to understand, just listen. It would do us both some good. Let me share with you some gibberish. Yeah. So, having said that, I'm going to share my screen, and I've got a little chart that I developed, and I'm going to kind of explain the chart and use it as a way of understanding this thing we call gibberish. So here we go. All right. So if you're not familiar with this geometric figure, it's called the Enneagram. It has 9 points, and the way it's used mostly in the Western world is for like a personality typology kind of thing, but I don't use it that way per se. I use it in a way that's called the ancient Enneagram, which is that any complete system of knowledge can be contained within the Enneagram, or to look at it a different way. The Enneagram can be used to, like, if you take a subject, a topic, and you look at the components of that topic, including like the polarity. There's usually a polarity in any topic, and then there's a reconciling element. And you look at the relationship between these components, then you gain understanding, and that's what I'm attempting to do here. So, like I was saying, most topics have a polarity, and so you can see that there is a triangle in this figure, right? And so in the triangle, usually what you have is the polarity, and the polarity that I seem to be working with is emotions and chaos, and the way that they give birth to play. Okay, so let's say more about that. So we are let's say we are emotional creatures, irregardless of whether we like consciously identify with our emotions and even lean into them. They still come out in even if we sort of avoid feeling, they come out inevitably in our lives. Um, but they're a way. Emotions are kind of a way of, for a lot of people at least, they're a way of comforting themselves. It's like a, yeah. I guess that's all I'm going to say about it. And then we have, on the other hand, so we have emotions, and then we have chaos. We have the sort of the experience of reality, which is disconcerting to say the least. That is, it's not conducive to having, say, good feelings. It's conducive to creating a lot of jagged emotionality, and and this is, I think this is kind of a polarity that's going on all the time with human beings in general. It's like we're trying to feel good, but reality is kind of, uh, you know, um, intercepting our efforts to feel good. And but if we learn to play, right? If we learn to play or to hold both of those, right? We don't. lean to one side or the other, um, we actually hold that polarity, um, and like play with it. That's, well, then we have humor. That's where humor is born. You know, and it's interesting. I looked up the definition of humor, and it's kind of a limited, definition. It's things that are amusing, or it's like, but really, what is humor? I think humor. When I think about it, humor is when we have all this stuff going on in life, and it's really easy to be serious, to be too serious, and and to it's hard to maintain dignity, because life is always kind of like poking at our most people are operating from a kind of a separated, body focused awareness, and life is just much bigger than that, and so it's always poking at our egos. And but humor is the ability to like have enough objectivity to kind of like say, oh, well, here I am, and this is this is what I'm feeling in this situation, or this is the kind of person that I am. This is what I'm looking for. But look what I actually have, and enough objectivity to kind of actually laugh. It's like to make to make fun with it. And when we do, when we're able to make fun with it, it's like it's the biggest difference in the world. It's like we all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is actually fun. Um, and that kind of gets to this too. Yes, and this actually comes from improv, from theater improv. It's like sort of the the what would I call it? The first principle of improv is yes and. What that means, if you're not familiar with it, is that if you if you're going to do an improvisation with somebody, like you don't know, neither maybe you each have like suggested character or suggested circumstance, but you don't know anything more than that, and you get on stage, and the first person says, to the other, uh, "Hey, it's been a long time," um, and if the other person says, "A long time," what do you mean? I don't know you. Um, well, actually, in that response there, it's actually saying if he said that, if the second person replied with, "Oh yeah, I can't remember when, but I remember your face," like that's a yes and. In other words, you're taking what the person said, and you're going with it. So even if you say, "I don't remember you," it's like you're still taking the circumstance, and it's like, and that can become drama. It's like, "I've never met you. What do you mean? What do you?" And that can turn into something that's very interesting too. But it's the ability to say yes to life, to say yes to um, you know, what life is delivering to you in the moment. What to say yes to the knock of God on your door. That is, I think, part of humor, and it's also part of play. Um, all right, so now to dig in a little more deeper with emotions. So one of the things that gibberish is good for, I don't know, have you ever noticed that, like all right, I noticed this with my wife, like sometimes we're getting into an altercation, right? And we're talking, and we're trying to listen to each other, and then at some point, this is what I noticed, that my wife gets so angry or so emotional that I stop hearing her words. It's like her emotions are like taking all my attention, and um, whether that be like, no, do I need to like leave the room, or um, do I need to defend myself, or you know but the emotions kind of take over, and there's really no hearing the words anymore. In other words, the content sort of gets masked by the emotions. Or in other words, the right brain kind of takes over the left brain. And so the thing that gibberish is good for is when you actually talk gibberish, and you do that with someone, and you share a gibberishic, how would you say it? A gibberific, you share a gibberific conversation with somebody. um, you're Because there's no real words, then what you're actually reading emotions better, and I think that's one of the values of gibberish, is it teaches us to read emotions. It's like that underlying context it comes to the fore, and that becomes that can be a very useful skill in interpersonal communication. The other thing that gibberish is really good for, which I kind of alluded to at the beginning, was that it's really good for emotional release. Like if you're really like pent up, angry about something. It's like you can really kind of let that out. And the thing is that it doesn't. It's just anger, and it doesn't go really get directed. I mean, you can direct it at a wall or something like that, but because there's no words, it becomes more about your own anger, and less about who or what you're projecting your anger on. So, and it doesn't have to be anger. It can be, tender feeling. I got so fascia, fa, humanas, patia, paya, tea, puya, mana, fata, ti, bushel, ba. Yeah. So, emotions are the gibberish allows the the level of emotionality to come to the surface. Okay, so and like I spoke about before, that so then the content kind of recedes, and the context becomes more apparent. So that and that context can be in the emotions, but it can also be in humor. It can be in consciousness. That it gets the situation that's expressed through gibberish get gets in a way more porous, and the and the consciousness surrounding the details, or the content, the circumstances, comes more to the fore. So, and then the last thing I wanted to just talk about is that gibberish can be used as prayer, and this is a very, like when I said, I very often when I get in the car, I'd start driving, I do gibberish for about 3 minutes. And that gibberish, usually it's the morning, and maybe I'm going to work or something like that, and I, you can, you think about prayer, and usually when we're praying, we're using words to sort of focus our attention on what we want. And so in a way, you have to kind of like really know what you want, and then be able to express it through prayer. And well, if you do it with gibberish, it's like you find out what you're wanting as you're doing it. You know, it's like because the words aren't like hindering your attention, you can get you can kind of start more general and then get more specific. So, you know, if I was to do like prayer with gibberish, it's like Gastni mo ya fo ya tashi mana fa ge no mana ma ye ya wo ya no fo ye ya wo. And for me, that came out as a song because I very often sing in gibberish, um, which is actually a good way to have fun in the shower is to kind of you can get into some pretty like you know trans cultural uh, opera with gibberish, but you can see that it's like there was a general so just to be completely transparent, what I was in that prayer that I just sang with through gibberish, I was I was praying for the use of gibberish in the world and that it could spread, to that people could use it to to better express themselves and to become to allow their deeper, more spiritual intentions to come through, and yeah, so that's the basic idea. So I'm going to stop my share, and so once again, this has been a little short kind of exploration, into what is gibberish, and including what is humor, and how can you do it, and how can and what are the benefits? Like what is it good for? And so yeah, my name is Christopher McClure, and this might be going on Welcome to the Shift Show. So, but basically the title is What is Gibberish? And thanks for listening.